In today's homework, we will be solving quadratic equations using a property called the zero product property. For today, though, we are going to have the quadratics in a factored form. And tomorrow, we're going to end up having to factor and then solve. So we got to figure out what the zero product property is. So basically, product tells us that we are going to multiply. And 0, well, when we multiply by 0, what do we get? So any number, let's say it was 3 times by 0, always equals 0. No matter what the number is here, it always equals 0. And so that's what we're doing here. Here we have two different products, and we're trying to, two different factors, and we're multiplying these factors, and they equal 0. Well, we're going to end up coming up with two different answers. Because if we knew what this answer was, this value of x, doesn't matter what this number is. If this is 0, we're going to end up multiplying by another number, and it's going to always equal 0. And so the way we're going to do this to find out what the value of x is take the expression here, x minus 8, and we're going to set it equal to 0. And then we're going to do some work. So we go ahead and add 8 to both sides, and that's what the x value is. See, if x is 8, here if we put in an 8 for x here, see 8 minus 8 makes 0. And then when we go ahead and put that same 8 in for this x, it doesn't matter what this number is. In this case, it's 14, but we still end up getting 0. So one of the answers is x equals 8. Well, the other answer is what we do with the other expression. We set that expression equal to 0 to find out what the value of x is here. See, here we have to subtract 6 from both sides. So we end up with x equals negative 6. So you see, if we put negative 6 in for x into these equations, we get the same answer. See, if we put negative 6 in for this x, minus 8, well, that equals negative 14. Over here, if we put negative 6 in for this x, we get 0. And you see, negative 14 times by 0 also equals 0. So this is another answer. So the two values that make this equal to 0, see when we multiply them, they equal 0, are 8 and negative 6. And then since this is a solution set, we're going to go ahead and put it in these braces. And that's our answer in the braces. So that's what we're going to basically do, is just take the expressions that we have that are being multiplied, and we're going to set each expression equal to 0 and solve for the variable. So let's try that with this next problem. Let's go ahead and take this x plus 4, and let's find out what the value of x is to make this 0. And you might be able to see it right away. See, if we take 4 away, we end up with x equals negative 4. It kind of makes sense. Negative 4 plus 4 equals 0. It doesn't matter what this value is, because 0 times any number equals 0. So to find the other value of x that makes this 0, we just take that expression, x plus 7, and we set it equal to 0. Do some work there, subtract the 7, and we have our answer. X equals negative 7. So those are our two answers, negative 4 and negative 7. We'll put those in a brace, symbolizing that's our solution set, the values of x that make this true, make it equal to 0. Well, let's try the next one here. So we've got two new expressions. X minus 2, we'll set that equal to 0. Do some work there, add the 2. Find the value that makes it equal to 0. It's positive 2. You see, 2 minus 2 makes 0. Doesn't matter what 2 minus 7 is. It equals negative 5, but no matter what it is, anything times by 0 equals 0. And I should have written equals 0 on all of these problems. So go ahead and do that. And so again, the reason why we're setting it equals 0 is because we want it to equal 0. That's what the problem said. Well, x minus 7, we set that equal to 0. Add the 7, and there it is. We end up with 7. So 7 minus 7 equals 0. You multiply 0 times any number. In this case, 5. 7 minus 2 is 5. It still equals 0. So our answer is 2, 7. And that goes inside a brace, and that represents our solution set. This one looks a little different. And what's different about it is we have one expression, but here it's just x equals 0. So we're going to set them both at the same time and try solving them. So we've got our two equations here. Add the 9 to both sides. I've got one answer, x equals 9. Over here, this one's already solved for us. X equals 0. So 0, 9. Those are the two answers, the two zeros, the two roots, the two x-intercepts, and that's what we're finding. This one's very similar, just a different way of writing it. We set both factors equal to 0. So you're setting this expression equal to 0. Any x value, you're going to end up setting that expression equal to 0. Over here, x plus 25, we're going to set that equal to 0. So here we have a little bit of work. We've got to subtract the 25 from both sides, so x equals negative 25. Over on this side, it's already solved for us. X equals 0 is 1, negative 25 the other. And then from there, you can just write that in your solution set. Well, over here, this one's a little more complicated because so far we've just always had a 1 as the coefficient of x. Here we have a 2. So we got a little bit more work on this problem. So I'll set up the two problems, doing the same thing, setting both factors equal to 0, and then do some work. The work is solve for x. So here we've got to subtract 1 from all sides. So what's left over is 2x equals negative 1, but we're not solved yet. So we still need to divide by 2. So our answer this time is a fraction. X equals negative 1/2. Over on this side, here we've got to do the same sort of thing. So we're going to end up adding 1 to this side. And so now we've got this 3x equals 1. So we do that same operation we did on the other side. We divide, but this time by 3. So x equals 1/3. And so those are our two answers, negative 1/2, comma, 1/3. Well, and again, that goes in a brace. That's a comma right there. Let me make that a little more clear. Almost looks like a 1 and 1/3. Let's fix that. All right, well, taking a look at this one, very similar to the last one there. Take that 2x plus 5, you're going to set that equal to 0, and set the x minus 3 equal to 0, and come up with your answer. So here we're going to end up having to subtract 5 from both sides. So we're left with a 2x equals negative 5. Divide by 2, and we'll have our answer. In this case, it's an improper fraction. You can just leave the answer as that improper fraction for us. Negative 5/2 is the answer there, but you still have one more to solve for. Got to add the 3 to both sides here. So we have x equals 3. So we get two answers. And so those answers are negative 5/2, and we also have 3, our solution set. Well, one more problem. This one is a little bit different. There's 3 factors here. So you count them, 1, 2, 3. So you're setting each of them. Since each of them has an x in them, you're going to set them equal to 0. So 3x minus 5, you set that equal to 0. X equals 0, that's another one. And we have x minus 2 equals 0. So you set all 3 factors that have an x equal to 0. And then solve. So here we're having to add the 5 to all sides. And so now we've got this 3x equals 5, divide by 3, and we've got our answer. 5/3 is one of them. Over here, this one's already solved for us. That one is just x is 0. Here we just have to add the 2, and we get our answer. So x equals 2. So those are the 3 answers. And so in this case, we have 3 solutions. We write them all down. 0, we've got a 5/3, and we have 2. And those are all the x-intercepts. This is a 3 terms, or 3 different answers here, so our solution set has those 3 numbers. Well, those are the types of problems you'll see on tonight's homework. Good luck.